I have Sunny and Steven joining me from not their own projects, a new project here, T-1, a brand new Launchpad building on Cardano with a couple of differences here. And I like these unique differences. And we're going to dig into the platform and learn all about it. Sunny, Steven, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. I should say welcome back, really. Like, you guys are veterans now.
Sorry, like Steve was saying, it feels weird being here for a different project other than what we're already working on, right? But exciting at the same time.
All right, so let's get into T-1. What is this all about, and how is it different to other existing platforms in the Cardano ecosystem?
Well, I'm not really the technical part of it. Peter, I think you already know this. I'm what they call a non-tech founder. And I was brought onto the team via Steven. One thing that I've been wanting to do for a long time was to increase my own learning and understanding of crypto itself, right? And what better way to do it than tokenomics? So Steve's an expert in tokenomics, and I started learning with him because I was going to go work with him to start doing tokenomics for other projects so I could learn better myself. And so he brought me in on that end. And then obviously because of my desire and need for wanting to build in the real world, let's say, and bring blockchain technology to the people that don't really understand it. I was brought in on that side, and so I'm building the community, but I'm going to be doing the big client relations, let's say, onboarding of projects of people that don't really know much about it or have really awesome ideas that could really, prosper on Cardano. So that's where I'm coming from. But in terms of being non-technical, I'm going to give it over to Steve because he'll be able to explain what technically makes it much better than anything else out there.
Let's start from the top. I think more of a broader view of the Cardano blockchain as a whole at the moment, because I think that's an important place to start. When you're a new project that's coming onto Cardano, it can be very daunting, much more daunting than when you're coming onto other blockchains, right? And the first and foremost part of that is technical complexity. So there's a technical barrier that you need to engage with to be able to launch on Cardano. And cost, there's a cost barrier because it's more expensive to have that higher technical barrier because you need more highly trained engineers. And then, of course, there's the last one, which I think is equally difficult in every community and every aspect, which is building your community and finding your niche and, delivering your product to the people that want to see it. Now, there is no real concise platform that exists on Cardano at the moment that allow for all three, particularly in a way that is compliant in a regulatory manner. And let's just discuss that for a moment, because I think that's really important, right? Any launch that is conducted on Cardano at the moment functionally needs to be managed primarily by the teams, right? The teams need to set up their launches. And the reason being is because the major item that's missing for you to be able to conduct a compliant launch is KYC, right? You don't have the capacity to engage with a launchpad that has a KYC that's going to monitor the incoming purchases and then give that to the project so the project is able to meet compliance standards for their release and their launch, right? And we are bringing that platform to Cardano because one of the biggest barriers that Cardano lacks to be able to launch new projects is the capacity for new projects to be able to launch in a compliant manner. So that is, I would say, the core difference, right? And then what that core difference then leads into is those other things that I was talking about, which is our experience. So this project is an amalgamation of MuesliSwap and ViFi, two of the largest dexes on Cardano, and we've had a lot of experience in building on Cardano as well as assisting other projects on Cardano. So both ViFi and Musli have built tokenomics and built product outlines for upwards of 20 projects between us on the Cardano ecosystem, right? And this is an experience that we bring to the table, I think, in a very unique manner for projects that want to give themselves a boost when launching.
That sounds absolutely brilliant. And like you said, with your experience that you guys have, and it's awesome to also hear that Sunny's learning about tokenomics and building all that. I'll kind of segue for a bit, but I find that is one of the hardest things to do to get it right and balanced. Vesting schedules and all these different aspects around launching a token. Like you can mint the token, exists, and you can distribute it out, but all these other things that can have an effect on your token price, whether it will completely dump over the next 2 years and then become non-existent to becoming a thriving ecosystem around it. So there's so much to it, and I love that you guys have so much experience around it. Now, with the compliance, with the KYC, how is that integrated into the platform? Like, are you working with a KYC partner or something? How does that aspect work?
So KYC is essentially being implemented into the platform in kind of a unique manner because our technology allows us to implement it in a bit of a unique manner. And what I mean by that is that there's going to be 2 streams on our platform. Now, we functionally have a smart contract that anyone is going to be able to approach and is going to be able to implement a token launch on that smart contract, right? That is the free form of I keep saying auto harvester from Wi-Fi, I apologize, of the Launchpad. And that's open to anyone. It's not free. There'll be a small fee to pay for, minting on the contract and all that kind of stuff because there are fees that are involved. But functionally, anyone can come in and just do a token launch that way. And there'll be limitations on that token launch based on Swiss regulation. All right. So you'll be able to run a token launch up to $250,000 with no KYC, right? And that'll just be you being able to go there, launch it, put in your tokens in the back end, say how much you want to sell them for, and boom. Now there's the export and people are able to come and purchase your token, and you can take the reins and tell people, here's our token launch, come and join it here. So in that sense, it's going to be available for anyone to be able to use, right? But to say that you're able to run most projects on a small size token launch of that caliber is, not realistic. A lot of organizations have got tens of employees, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, IOHK's got thousands. Now, to be able to run one of these larger size corporations, you need to be able to run or raise a large amount of money, right? Or at least a decent amount of money. And the biggest thing that companies want to be able to do is they want to be able to raise that money in a legal fashion, right? And there's the differentiator that we have. That you have the form of the Launchpad that's accessible by anyone, that they just click a few buttons and they're going to be able to put on a token launch, but with the limitations. And if you want to engage in the compliant manner without the limitations, then you need to engage on the KYC side of the platform and enter the KYC launches.
Okay, so it handles some of those legal aspects so you can launch legally. But I'm assuming for anyone, but I've never launched a token before, so I don't know some of these legal aspects that are involved. But I just assume that if you're launching a token, you will need to still engage with a lawyer of some sort to ensure that you're creating something that isn't security and all these other aspects. But do you guys help manage that process as well?
There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
So we can certainly, So we can certainly assist with that process, right? We can, and this is something, I guess now I'm talking to projects that are coming up, right? We can link you with the business advisors. We can link you with the law teams, with the legal teams that are going to be able to make those determinations for you, and the business advisors that'll best be able to locate your business given what circumstances you're trying to build, right? And furthermore, you have access to myself, and what my specialty has become in the Cardano ecosystem is essentially designing these outlines and passing them off to lawyers to make that determination, right? So whilst I'm not a lawyer myself, this is my area of specialty, is in working out with teams how we can design these systems in a manner that's incredibly understandable to the lawyers, and so that we have a clear understanding of what's taking place, right? Now, this works on 2 levels, right? If a team has already made the determination that their token is legal and they're going through the compliant the compliance stream, then very simply, they just need to hand us a lawyer's advice. If they have a lawyer's advice that says their token is legal to launch, then we don't need to make a determination on that because the lawyer has made that determination. But if a project doesn't have a legal advice on the status of their token, then on the compliance side, we can't compliantly launch that token on our platform. So our goal would be to work with the project to get them to the point that they're able to have a lawyer's advice and launch a compliant legal token sale.
For a project that is wanting to launch a token and going through this, how much does it cost on average to have a lawyer to give that legal advice around the token? And then how much does it cost to do a compliant token launch with KYC? Because I'm assuming it's a third-party KYC provider that does the whole passport, driver's license thing, and that costs money as well. So I'm just trying to budget how much this would cost, and also I'm thinking it's a chicken and an egg kind of situation. I want to launch, I have no money, but I have to fork out all this money for lawyers and KYC. It's a difficult situation.
At the end of the day, there's always a cost to launching a business, right? And that's why you try and find something like an angel investor or a family member that can give you $20,000, $50,000 so that you're able to start up, or you save that money yourself. That's just, to anyone who wants to launch a project, that's just a reality of it, right? This is talking to your audience who's thinking about launching their own things. Same as for a laundromat. If you want to launch a laundromat, you need to pay for the laundry and you need to pay for the space, Essentially, in this space, our laundry is that's a bad example. I don't want to use that because I'm just trying to link to laundry. Our cafe, the space that we rent is essentially our cryptocurrency, right? So we need to make sure that our cryptocurrency is working all fine. Now, the prices for the lawyers depends on the complexity of the project. I think that's one of the big things that is important to point out here. If you are launching an NFT marketplace, that's going to be a very simple lawyer's advice. And you're not going to, if you need assistance with organizing the tokenomics of it and organizing the lawyer's advice, that's not going to be too difficult, right? On the other hand, if you're launching a decentralized exchange, like what I've been through, I can assure you it's going to be a bit more than if you do it the other way. And that could be, in circumstances, I'm not going to give any exact numbers, right? But I've heard projects that have paid upwards of $20,000 for compliance. And I've heard of other projects that can pay as little as $3,000 to $4,000 for the compliance.
Okay. So it really varies depending on the project. But it's good to know at least there's some ballpark figures there so that anyone that's thinking about launching a project and launching a token, they have some numbers at least to play with.
Yeah, and from the side of the KYC and the Launchpad, you're sort of looking at a launch price of anywhere between, and look, this is something that we still haven't decided yet, so this is still a bit up in the air, but it's likely to be around the $10,000 mark initially, right, as sort of the initial phase. And, this is something that I think is really, as you said, there are underlying costs that are involved, and there are multiple services that go around that. It's not just you get to launch in our Launchpad. It's you get access to the MuesliSwap team and the Wi-Fi team.
Yeah, lots of added bonuses there. And, of course, like you said earlier, there's lots of different aspects to launching a token, launching a project as well. After you've done a successful token launch, you also have liquidity bootstrapping events. You got to list on dexes, and then you got to continue building your community as well. And this is something that you guys all have experience with as well. Can we talk about the next part of the process after the token launch is hopefully successful for a project? The liquidity bootstrapping and how that all works and how it ties in through your platforms. And I'm assuming also tying into your dexes too.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it, right? So one of the most important parts that we have with any launch is that a portion of the launch funds are actually being held aside for liquidity. And that is, I think, something that's essential for any functional token, right? Because there's no point launching a token if you've just got no liquidity to go alongside that. Now, these liquidity that's being placed towards the token, as you said, right, has the advantage of having a funnel directly through to MuesliSwap and ViFi. Now, this means that through our platforms, we're able to work with these teams to organize things such as jewel farms and farming rewards to be able to quickly motivate their communities into supplying liquidity for those projects and giving them that liquidity bootstrap and bolstering that. So it's through the implementation of the tools that we're connected with that we're able to provide an optimized service in the area, in the field of maintaining and providing liquidity.
Very advantageous to have a Launchpad with their fingers in so many pies, from the experience of designing tokenomics, the experience of launching their own projects, and also being able to tap into their own dexes to provide those extra boosted farming rewards and everything else around it.
That's exactly why us and Musli started working together on this, because we realized that the opportunity was strong individually building a Launchpad, having a DEX, but the power was really multiplied by having two DEXs come together to do this.
I guess that would mean you'd split liquidity across both the dexes and try and gain more liquidity from the communities that you both have. I'm always wondering how a project decides which dex to put their liquidity on, because sometimes it might be a very limited supply as well, and then splitting across multiple dexes becomes very difficult, because then you have price impact and all these other factors when trying to trade on those dexes.
Well, this is something that I actually think is interesting and worth noting. It's something that's becoming less of a problem in Cardano. And the reason for this is because of the really specific way that the Cardano blockchain works is super optimized for transaction or swap aggregation. So projects and products the like of Dex Hunter, right? Now, and Musli do it as well. This DEX aggregation is able to draw from all the liquidity pools across any DEX as if it's a single transaction, right? And the reason we're able to do that so effectively is because of the Cardano's UTXO structure. But it means that right now in Cardano and into the future, as I think these DEX aggregators are going to become more popular, there is less of an imperative to keep your liquidity in any one place as a lump sum. Because if you've got three smaller sums across three different places, a user that makes a single purchase is going to be able to treat that single purchase coming from all three and move all three equally, right? That now gives the opportunity for the projects to be able to really diversify their DEX choice based on who's able to offer them a better service, because you're no longer going to be as required to keep all your liquidity in one place for you users to have a fluid experience.
That is super interesting. And I have seen Dex Hunter just grow astronomically. I think they're doing the majority of the transactions on the Cardano blockchain at the moment. So I encourage anyone, if you haven't checked out Dex Hunter, check it out. It's an absolutely brilliant service that they've put together.
And actually, I just want to speak on that for one moment. I'm starting to see that because of the structure of the Cardano blockchain, I think that there is a space for a highly specialized service that conducts transactions, and for specialized services that sit underneath this that conduct liquidity provision, right? And we're used to, in account model blockchains, these services being one and the same. You go to the DEX to conduct the trade. But if we can, through the design of the blockchain, allow essentially all the DEX's liquidities to be treated as one big pile that have come through in an aggregated swap, that now means that we've got a split layer where we've got a swap layer and a liquidity provision layer, right, on the blockchain.
Wow, okay. Super interesting.
The liquidity provision layer, which is where ViFi sits and the other DEXs sit, I think the major focus is going to shift to how do we maintain and optimize the liquidity on our liquidities. In other words, how do we work with projects to get them to deliver us liquidity so that the aggregator in the front end is able to perform its function, right? But functionally, it's not, I don't see it like moving 1-2 years in the future. I don't see it as any one individual DEX needing to have liquidity for that token to be able to functionally trade through that DEX. Right? You can work with it in portions because of the way that the top layer aggregates the bottom layer as if it's just one big pile. And that's something in liquidity that's super unique to Cardano that we haven't seen on any other blockchains. And that's really something that I've been thinking and pondering a lot about, and how if that is what is taking place, and if that is what happens, there's a lot of space for liquidity providers and a lot of space for swaps, right? There's still a lot of space for all of these. But how does this shuffle itself, and how do you take advantage of it? You know, that's, of course, my job running a DEX.
All right. Okay. I've got two more questions. The first one being, how does this compare to other ecosystems? So you kind of touched on it there. You haven't seen anything else in the crypto space that is comparative to this. Now, I'm looking at MetaMask, and in MetaMask you can do swaps directly, and you'll be able to access whatever DEX they're integrated in. But with this kind of idea and concept for the swap layer, you'll be able to integrate in the liquidity from your launched projects on any DEX that's underneath it. So that's really cool. How does it look on other spaces? Is there nothing like this at all that can allow for this kind of level?
Not really. That's differentiating itself in this manner. No, and the reason being is that the UTXO model that we have in Cardano allows you to really easily split inputs and outputs. So it means that I can go to one single front end, and through a single transaction, I can run a swap on 10 different DEXs simultaneously, right? Now, I can do this on Ethereum in the manner that I can do, for example, a flash loan, where I can string multiple functions onto an asset in a single in a single transaction. But that's still occurring to the same asset, right? What we're able to do is we're able to portion it between UTXOs and take this bit goes here, this bit goes here, this bit goes here, this bit goes here, right? So this implementation, and it's been showing itself for a while now, right? It's not something that hasn't been sort of showing its face before Dex Hunter, but this implementation of having this top layer for swaps that's functionally doesn't need to be connected to this bottom layer for liquidity, I think from my observation, is a very uniquely Cardano circumstance.
Going from the tech side to the more human side, let's say, I feel that with the projects that are launching in, like for example, Empower. Now, Empower doing an amazing thing with the residential properties in Africa, right? And they're bringing this kind of a hybrid model of for-profit social impact, right? That's what they're doing. So they're making money, but they're also making a huge impact. Now, with the giving model that's broken, and it has been for a very long time in the world, the trend is going towards that, where people want to do good things and want to make impact, but they also want to have a business. And for the life of me, I mean, I've been waiting for a very long time for there to be a Launchpad. For the last few bull runs, there's just been a ridiculous amount of projects that are launched that have done nothing at all. They've literally just sucked money out of the public and they've disappeared, right? And I feel that TMinusOne could be that differentiator, but because if you look at the vision of Charles and why a lot of us came to Cardano in the first place, this is now bringing that to life, right? So we have a token Launchpad that allows people to really share their story, allow people to fall in love with them, and then build that liquidity so that they can go and do that impact. That for me is the biggest draw, and I'm going to be doing my level best to ensure that we bring as many projects to Cardano that are going to be making a real world impact, so that we can show the world blockchain isn't a scam. The place is not full of sharks, and this technology can actually do good for the world, because that's why it exists, right? And if we can't prove it to the world, then how is it ever going to have that mass adoption that we need?
Precisely. And going on with the human side of things, the last bit of the whole Launchpad that you were talking about was the community aspect. And I think a lot of project owners that come into the space. They're good with their product. They're good where they're building what they need to build, except for the community. And that is a massively hard part to build as well. But both of you have experience in doing this. Can you talk about how the Launchpad may help with the community building aspects as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of functionality that's still going to be built out, because when we launch soon after the summit, is going to be the MVP, right? It's going to be the testnet version, with the full version coming soon after 2024, after the new year. So there are going to definitely be the basics where people can use the social links and stuff like that to help build the community, to draw them to their product landing page, as it will be on T-1, where people can find out what the tokenomics are. They can find out everything about the project and then use those links to then spread the message. Those are, I think, basic on every platform now. But I'm very interested in creating spaces where we can discuss projects that are launching. We can do Twitter spaces. Podcasts will probably be coming onto your space a lot, Pete, again, when there's anything significant launching on T-1, for sure. But we want to help build the understanding what their project is doing to the rest of the community. And it's not just in the crypto community, remember. For this place to thrive, we need to have a lot more onboarding of brand new people into the space. And that's going to happen if we bring in projects that have a real world impact and bring that community.
And I think as a starting point, it's really important to note that we are working with two already existing large communities in the Cardano space, Wi-Fi and MusliSwap. And as a result of that, one, we need to be careful, of course, because you can't just introduce any project to the community and say they're legit. We have a position of responsibility, right? And we do need to maintain a degree of separation between the projects that we launch on our Launchpad and the other businesses that we run, because they're separate businesses, and that can cause a negative impact to each other. But that being said, there is a funnel through which they're able to introduce themselves to our community through things such as vaults on Wi-Fi, or through things such as token staking, farms on both of our platforms. And this gives you an instantaneous way to tap into existing communities on Cardano that other launchpads can't offer.
Yeah, and I think that's big. Being able to leverage off the MusliSwap and Wi-Fi communities is really important for any project that's wanting to launch. And having T-1 being that entry point for it all, I think is absolutely perfect. So it sounds all really good. And with a launched MVP just after the summit, so in about 2 weeks from now, it sounds like projects will be able to tap into it really soon and get their projects launched.
Yeah, we're hoping sort of in the next 2 to 3 months. We're looking for the mainnet launch, and we're actually looking for projects to launch with right now. So definitely send anyone our way, Pete, if you know any, or if anyone has any. If anyone is looking to launch a project, definitely don't hesitate to send us a message and hit us up. And also the community, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to join any of our socials.
I was going to say, Steve, you should also tell them that you're going to be at the summit as well, along with the founder, Neil. So if you have ideas for projects, or if you have any questions or anything that you want to discuss, try to track Steven down and then pin him down for 5 minutes if you can.
Awesome. Brilliant, guys. I'll grab the links for everything and put them in the show notes. This sounds like an absolutely awesome launchpad. Maybe I can launch my own token through this and get it up and running and raise some funds and actually build something really cool.
That'd be amazing.
That would be amazing. I think that you should be the perfect trial for it, Pete. So, so start working on that paper, man.
Yeah, we'll do. All right. Awesome, guys. Thank you for joining me on the podcast again, and enjoy the summit, Stephen. I'm deeply jealous.
Yeah, massively.
Thank you.
But, yeah,
I'm very tired. I'm very tired with flying, but we're doing it.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what we like, but this is not investment or financial advice. Gotta do your research, cause it's risky. We know it is. This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debate.